So another set of business process controls that should be implemented into every business process are supervisory controls. And guess what? They mean exactly what it sounds like, right? They help supervise or monitor that business process. So these are typically going to be performed by the manager of that business process or executive team members. Now we're going to go through preventative supervisory controls and then detective supervisory controls. So the first preventative control would be hiring requirements. And this basically relates to the fact that when we're hiring employees that are qualified, capable, and competent to perform the role, then the risk of error in that business process is lessened. And so what we need to do is have minimum experience requirements, right? Make sure they interview with multiple people that understand who needs to fill that position. And then ultimately, maybe we even need a hiring decision committee. And ultimately, this just makes sure that the right individual is hired for that role. The next control is proper hierarchy, and this relates to a company's organizational chart. So as you can see, here is an organizational chart. So let's say at the top, there's the CEO. And then there's the next band of people that report to the CEO. And then under them, they have the employees that report to them. Now, the whole point here is that if there's good organizational structure and there's proper hierarchy, then employees will be properly supervised and a clear chain of command would exist, right? And this helps just the business run more smoothly and helps make sure that proper supervision does exist. The next control is segregation of duties. So when proper segregation of duties exists, that reduces the risk of fraud or error. And this is preventative because if we do have proper segregation of duties, well, it eliminates the opportunity for fraud and error to occur, right? So key control there. And again, just remember our ARC mnemonic, right? Because that talks about what types of duties should be segregated. The last preventative control is approval requirements. So this basically just says for certain business activities, maybe we need to have an approval plan in place. So like hiring decisions or writing checks over a certain amount or executing partnership agreements, right? Likely need to have some approval in place. That will help prevent issues down the road. So those are the preventative controls. How about some detective supervisory controls? Now, supervisory controls that are detective in nature, those are considered the last line of defense, right? They're supposed to help identify anything that slipped through the cracks that wasn't prevented. So the first item here would be audits and inspections. Now, yes, some companies are required to have audits, but they can also be beneficial for the company's business process, right? If they use the results of those audits or inspections, well, they can learn from them and learn how to improve those business processes so that nothing slips through the cracks, right? So that is one detective control. Another is employee performance reviews. Again, people make up a business and they need to have annual performance reviews to determine if that employee is adequately performing the job they're hired to perform. So without an employee performance review, well, the employee might not know exactly how to improve, and the company, right, the managers, they don't really know exactly what that employee is doing. So this is a good opportunity for everybody to get back on the same page. The next control would be a budget versus actual analysis. So if the company does a proper budget, they'd say, okay, this coming month, we expect to generate $100 of revenue. We expect to spend $50. Well, at the end of that next month, they have their actual results. Somebody should go in and compare the budgeted versus the actual results. Now, the expectation isn't necessarily to hit the budget and for the actual to be on par. It's just to understand why we are higher or lower. So what a company should do is establish a threshold, which can either be a dollar amount or a percentage threshold. And then if the budget versus actual exceeds that dollar or that percentage threshold, well, they should investigate. The last detective control would be tracking of KPIs. Now, every business is going to have key performance indicators that they consider critical to their business in order to achieve their strategic objectives, right? And so what a company should do is monitor these KPIs on a monthly or annual basis, and this can help them assess, are we doing well, are we not doing well, where do we need to improve? Right, so some example KPIs would include maybe new customers, or average revenue per customer, about market share they have, or net promoter score, meaning how happy are our customers. How about order fulfillment time, or what about response to customer complaints, right? Those are all examples of KPIs. So when it comes to supervisory controls, just remember these key preventative and detective controls. And these will help supervise or monitor the business.